I found my husband's second phone. The truth nearly destroyed me. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I still remember the exact second my world split open. It was a Saturday morning. Nothing unusual, just laundry day, sunlight slanting through our kitchen window. My husband, Matt, was in the shower, his phone, the one I knew about, charging on the nightstand. I've been to pick up his jeans to check the pockets. He's notorious for leaving receipts and loose change. That's when my hand closed around his second phone. Not his usual black case, but a cheap, off-brand silver. I froze. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd mixed up our stuff. But this phone was locked with a passcode I'd never seen. My hands trembled as I pressed the power button and the home screen flickered to life. Nothing familiar. No wallpaper, no apps. Just a string of missed calls and cryptic text from unsaved numbers. My heart hammered as I hid the phone in the laundry basket, folding shirts over it. When Matt got out of the shower, he smiled and kissed my cheek, asking if I wanted pancakes. I could barely look at him. I kept nodding, acting normal, all the while feeling that cold rectangle burning a hole through the fabric. He left for errands. The second the door closed, I locked myself in the bathroom, adrenaline buzzing in my ears. I tried his birthday, mine, even our wedding date. Nothing worked. But I couldn't stop. I had to know. It was like a compulsion, every suspicion from the past year flooding back. Late nights at the office, hushed phone calls in the garage, sudden changes in his moods. Desperate, I tried our daughter's birthday, and the screen unlocked. What I saw first was a string of texts. Don't call me here. I can't talk tonight. She's home. Money's in the usual place. My knees gave out. There were photos, too. One of Matt in a bar I'd never seen, his arm around a woman with long red hair. Another, even worse, a bank receipt for thousands withdrawn in cash. The truth was staring at me, razor sharp and poisonous. This phone, this secret life, and suddenly, I realized, whatever I thought I knew about Matt was just the beginning. I couldn't breathe. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked alien. Wide eyes, trembling lips, a woman unraveling. The phone felt radioactive in my hands, burning with every new notification. My mind raced back over the last year, replaying every odd detail I'd forced myself to ignore. Matt working late, flinching when I glanced at his screen, the way he'd changed his passwords and stopped sharing his calendar. I scrolled deeper. The red-haired woman appeared again and again. Sometimes Matt looked happy, happier than I'd seen him in years. Other times, the messages were frantic, angry. You promised you'd tell her. I can't do this anymore. Just one more payment. A sinking feeling settled in my gut. Was it an affair? Blackmail? Both. My thoughts spiraled. How long had this been going on, and what else was he hiding? A video popped up in the message thread. My fingers hovered, then pressed play. Matt's voice, laughing, private, a side of him reserved for someone else. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, but I couldn't stop watching. He said her name, Claire. He told her he loved her. Hot tears blurred my vision. I shut off the screen and pressed the phone to my chest, trying not to sob too loudly. My daughter was napping in the next room. For her sake, I had to stay together, at least for now. I wiped my eyes, washed my face, and buried the phone back in the laundry. When Matt returned home, he acted as if nothing was wrong, whistling, joking, asking about dinner plans. I forced a smile, but every word tasted like poison. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the second phone hidden beneath my pillow. I knew I couldn't ignore it. Tomorrow, I'd start digging. I'd find out who Claire was, and just how deep Matt's lies went. Morning came with a sick dread in my stomach. I barely slept, mind churning with everything I'd seen. Matt acted normal, almost too normal. He packed our daughter's lunch, kissed me goodbye, and left for work with the same breezy charm that used to make me feel safe. Now, I saw every gesture as camouflage. The second he left, I locked the door and pulled out the second phone. My hands shook as I scrolled through contacts. No names, just numbers and a few cryptic initials. Claire's messages were the most frequent. In one, she sent a photo of a small apartment, bare furniture, a suitcase, and a single pink stuffed rabbit. Is this where he spent those overnights? I dug through Matt's desk, rifling for receipts and bank statements. A withdrawal for $5,000, cash. 2 weeks ago. A hotel bill in Claire's city, listed under M. Thomas. My stomach twisted. How many times had he lied about business trips just to spend the night with her? That afternoon, I called the number marked Claire. My heart pounded so hard I almost hung up. 2 rings, then a soft, weary voice. Hello. I hung up, panic flaring. I wasn't ready, not yet. Instead, I texted from Matt's secret phone. I need to see you. Urgent. A reply came instantly. Tonight. Our spot. 8 p.m. Was I really doing this? I paced the kitchen, rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd keep from screaming or breaking down. Every second dragged. Every tick of the clock a reminder that my marriage, my reality, was built on quicksand. By evening, Matt still hadn't noticed the missing phone. He left for work drinks, suit pressed, lips warm on my forehead. Don't wait up, he smiled. The door closed behind him. I grabbed my keys and the second phone and headed out into the dark. I was done waiting for the truth to find me. I was going to find it myself. The city felt different that night. Colder, meaner, like every shadow could swallow me whole. I gripped Matt's second phone so tightly my knuckles ached. The address Claire had texted was a bar on the edge of downtown, the kind of place where secrets went to drink and people disappeared into the noise. I got there early, heart thundering as I slid into a booth near the back. The air smelled of stale beer and desperation. Every time the door opened, I flinched. What if Matt showed up instead? What if Claire saw through me instantly? At 8:07, a woman in a crimson coat swept inside. She looked just like the photos, long red hair, striking cheekbones, eyes scanning the room with wary confidence. I felt suddenly small, ordinary, like a child wearing her mother's clothes. She sat across from me without a word, phone in hand. Her gaze flicked to the device on the table, then to my face. I thought you'd come alone, she said quietly. But I didn't expect you. My mouth went dry. You're Claire. She nodded, her expression a mix of guilt and challenge. And you must be Matt's wife. Hearing her say it made something in me crack. I wanted to scream, to run, to slap that calm, knowing look off her face. Instead, I forced out, how long? Claire glanced away, lips pressed tight. A year. Maybe more. He said he loved me. He said he'd leave you, that he just needed time. My hands shook. Did you know about me? About our daughter? Her eyes filled with regret. Not at first, but I know everything now. She reached into her purse and slid an envelope across the table. You should read this. I'm done being his secret. The envelope felt heavy, dangerous. My life was about to fracture all over again. Behind Claire, a familiar voice spoke from the bar. Matt. He just walked in. My heart plummeted as Matt's voice cut through the bar's din. He hadn't seen me yet. He was laughing with a colleague, oblivious to the collision about to shatter his carefully constructed world. Claire tensed, knuckles whitening around her glass. Don't say anything, she whispered urgently. Let him come to us. I shoved the envelope into my bag, barely resisting the urge to open it right there. My mind raced. What if he spotted us? What if this all exploded in public? But Claire was done hiding. She stood, smoothed her hair, and strode straight to Matt at the bar. I watched, numb, as she tapped his shoulder. He turned, confusion flickering into shock. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then his gaze darted past her and landed on me. The color drained from his face. What are you doing here? Claire answered for both of us, her voice icy but clear. It's over, Matt. I told your wife everything. Matt's mask crumbled, replaced by a raw panic I'd never seen before. You don't know what you're doing, he hissed. Let's talk outside. Now. I stood up, hands shaking, and joined them. The three of us filed out onto the cold sidewalk, the night air thick with accusations. Matt turned to me, pleading. It's not what you think. I cut him off, holding up the second phone. No more lies, Matt. I know about Claire. I know about the money. What else are you hiding from me? He glanced around, desperate for an escape. Claire folded her arms, face hard as stone. Matt's voice was barely a whisper. It's not safe to talk here. Please, both of you. There are things you don't understand. A shadowy figure stepped out of the alley behind us, watching with predatory interest. The night had only begun to unravel. We stood frozen, the three of us under the flickering streetlight as the stranger's silhouette edged closer. I pressed the second phone tighter in my hand, pulse pounding in my throat. Claire glanced at me, her bravado slipping. Matt's eyes darted from the approaching figure back to me. panic written across every line of his face. The man stopped a few paces away, speaking in a low, unfamiliar voice. "Matt, you said you'd come alone." A chill ran through me. Matt's shoulders slumped. "This wasn't my plan. Just give me a second." He turned to me and Claire, voice urgent. "Go home. Now. Please, for your own safety." But Claire squared her jaw. "No more secrets. Not tonight." The stranger's gaze flicked to me, then the phone in my hand. "So this is the wife. And the mistress." He almost smiled. "You both deserve the truth, don't you?" Matt tried to step between us. "You stay away from them." The man ignored him, locking eyes with me. "Check the bank statements on that phone, sweetheart. See where your husband's money really goes. Then decide who you trust." He melted into the darkness as quickly as he'd appeared, leaving an electric silence behind. Claire grabbed my arm. "He's part of this, isn't he? The money, the threats, you're in deeper than we thought, Matt." Matt looked beaten, tears welling in his eyes. "I tried to protect you, both of you, but now it's out of my hands." I stared down at the phone, dread churning in my stomach. My fingers flew over the screen, opening the banking app. Dozens of transfers. Large sums, sent monthly to names I didn't recognize. Claire read over my shoulder. "Who are they, Matt?" He finally answered, voice hoarse. "People you can't imagine. If you keep digging, you'll both be in danger." But I wasn't stopping, not after tonight. I looked at Claire, and we both knew. We had to find out everything, no matter what it cost. Sleep was impossible. After we parted ways with Matt, and Claire hailed a cab, I stumbled home in a fog. The second phone felt heavier than ever, like a ticking bomb in my purse. I sat on the kitchen floor, phone in hand, staring at the transfer records and the unfamiliar names. J. Turner, B. Lee, accounts registered in other countries. The amounts were staggering. My hands shook as I screenshotted everything. The next morning, I couldn't pretend anymore. I called in sick to work and dropped my daughter off at daycare, barely able to look her in the eye. At home, I poured coffee and sat at the table, piecing together the puzzle. I searched every name, every transaction, cross-referencing with news articles and court records. Soon, a disturbing pattern emerged. Blackmail, shell companies, ties to an ongoing criminal investigation in the city. Had Matt gotten in over his head, or had he always been part of this? A message popped up from Claire. "Meet me at the library. We need to talk." 2 p.m. I arrived early, scanning the faces around me. Claire showed up in sunglasses, her face drawn but determined. She slid a folder across the table, photos, bank statements, even a grainy shot of Matt shaking hands with the man from last night. "His name's Tony Bishop," Claire whispered. "Money laundering, extortion, all of it. Matt promised me he'd get out, but he lied. We're both targets now." My head spun. "What do we do?" Claire's jaw tightened. "We need to go to the police. Or," she hesitated, "we could run. Disappear before they come after us. But if you want justice, we have to be ready for the fallout." Terror warred with anger inside me. Did I want revenge or escape? Suddenly, my own phone buzzed with a blocked number. I answered on instinct. A gruff voice rasped, "Stay out of this, or your daughter pays the price." The room spun as the threat echoed in my ear. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My daughter's name never felt so fragile. Claire saw my face drain of color and gripped my wrist, grounding me. I put the call on speaker. The line was silent except for steady breathing. Then a click. The caller hung up. Panic rose in me, choking. "They know about my daughter," I whispered, voice barely there. "They know everything." Claire's own fear flickered in her eyes, but she straightened her shoulders. "You can't go home. Not yet. They could be watching." I nodded, numb. The library suddenly felt unsafe. Every stranger a possible threat. We gathered our things and slipped out through a side exit, scanning the street for anyone suspicious. Claire led me to her apartment, a cramped but tidy space above a bakery. She drew the blinds, locked every door. Sitting on her couch, the weight of the decision pressed down. "If we go to the police, they'll protect us, right?" I asked, almost pleading. Claire shook her head. "Sometimes yes, sometimes not enough. These people have reach, even inside the force. We need real evidence, something they can't bury." I remembered the envelope Claire had given me at the bar. Hands trembling, I finally opened it. More photos, emails between Matt and Tony Bishop, talk of offshore accounts and bribes. It was damning. It was everything. A new plan started to form, pieced together from desperation and rage. We bring all of this to a journalist, I said. Someone public, someone they can't silence. Claire's lips parted in surprise, then she nodded. It's dangerous, but if we go public, maybe they'll back off. But even as I spoke, my phone vibrated again. Another blocked number. A text this time, with a photo attached. My daughter, playing in the daycare yard. The message, last warning. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Running was no longer an option. I was done being afraid. My mind raced. The threat was no longer abstract. They knew exactly where to find my daughter. I stared at the photo, while rising in my throat, fear morphing into a burning, desperate determination. I turned to Claire, voice shaking but fierce. We end this. Now. No more running. She nodded, eyes hardening with resolve. Okay, but we have to be smart. No mistakes. We spent the next hour collecting every scrap of evidence. Photos, emails, the banking screenshots, everything from Matt's secret phone. I backed up files to the cloud and set up scheduled emails to trusted friends. If anything happened to us, the evidence would be released. A thin layer of safety, but something to cling to. Claire made calls to a local investigative reporter, someone who'd built a reputation on exposing corruption. We arranged to meet that evening, somewhere public and crowded. All day, I watched the clock, heart pounding with every notification, every car that slowed near the bakery. At dusk, we slipped out, keeping to busy streets, eyes scanning every face. The meeting spot was a bright cafe near the center of town. The journalist, a woman named Harper, was already waiting, notepad in hand, her gaze sharp and sympathetic. We handed over the evidence, explained everything, Matt's betrayal, the laundering, the threats. Harper's expression grew grim. You're both incredibly brave. I'll publish as soon as I can verify this. But you need to disappear. Tonight. I'll contact a friend at Witness Protection, someone I trust. Just then, Claire's phone rang. A video message from Matt. On the screen, Matt was frantic, whispering, "You have to stop. Please. They have me. If you go public, I'm dead. Claire, please. For all our sakes." Tears pricked my eyes. Was this another manipulation, or was he truly in danger? If we released the story, we could save ourselves, but at what cost? Harper looked up, urgent. It's your call. Do I publish, or do we wait? The fate of my marriage, my child, and maybe even Matt's life rested on my answer. The cafe seemed to freeze around us, every sound muffled by the pounding of my heart. Matt's face, drawn, desperate, haunted the screen. For a moment, I saw the man I'd loved, the father of my child, not the liar who dragged us all into this nightmare. My hand hovered over Harper's laptop, ready to send the files that would expose everything. Claire squeezed my arm. He's lying. He always lies. Don't let him pull you back in. But I couldn't ignore the terror in his eyes. What if they really have him? I whispered. What if publishing gets him killed? Harper spoke softly, but firmly. You have evidence of real crimes. These people hurt families, destroy lives. If you wait, they'll keep coming. They'll never stop. I wiped my eyes, torn between guilt and fury. Every instinct screamed at me to protect my daughter, to protect myself. But could I live with sending Matt to his death, even after everything? Suddenly, my phone rang, my regular phone this time. The daycare. My blood ran cold. A calm voice on the other end. Mrs. Thomas? There's a man here to pick up your daughter. Says he's her uncle. We just wanted to confirm. Panic clawed up my throat. No, don't let her leave with anyone but me. I'm on my way. Harper's face paled. That's your answer. You go public, right now. It's the only way to put a spotlight on them. They'll back off if the world is watching. I nodded, adrenaline burning through my fear. Do it. Publish. Now. Harper hit send, the story launching out into the world. Photos, documents, names. There was no going back. Claire and I ran from the cafe, calling the police, praying we'd reach my daughter in time. By the time we reached the daycare, patrol cars were already there. My daughter was safe, shaken, but safe. The uncle had vanished. But as news alerts flooded in, our faces on every screen, I knew the fight was far from over. The city would never look at us the same way again. That night, my phone exploded with calls, texts, social media pings. Harper's story had already gone viral. Our names and faces flashed across every news outlet in the city. Matt's scandal, the criminal ring, the threats. It was all out there, impossible to take back. Police finally listened. Officers were stationed outside my home and the daycare. Their presence both a relief and a constant reminder of the dangers still lurking. Claire stayed with me, both of us afraid to be alone. The aftermath came fast. Reporters camped outside my building. Neighbors whispered. My family bombarded me with calls, some supportive, others furious that I'd brought shame to our name. My daughter clung to me, confused by the flashing cameras and the fear in my eyes. But there was something else too, messages from other women. Stories of Matt, of Tony Bishop, of threats and blackmail. We weren't alone. Our story was the crack that let the light in. Matt finally called. His voice was broken. You ruined everything. You've killed me. In the background, I heard shouting. Then the line went dead. I sat in the kitchen, shaking, wondering if I'd ever see him again, and if I even wanted to. Police questioned us for hours. Claire told them everything. How Matt had manipulated her, how she'd kept quiet out of fear. The detective in charge promised witness protection, at least for a while. But trust came slow. Every knock at the door made me flinch. That night, I watched news clips with numb horror. Raids on Tony Bishop's properties, politicians named, police officers arrested. It was all so much bigger than I'd ever realized. And through it all, my daughter slept beside me, clutching her stuffed rabbit, blissfully unaware that her world would never be the same. I looked out at the swarm of reporters and patrol cars and realized I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. Tomorrow, I'd have to face the world and decide who I wanted to be when the dust finally settled. Morning brought no peace, only more headlines and a doorbell that wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters wanted statements. My parents called again, demanding answers I couldn't give. I brewed coffee with shaking hands and turned on the TV. Tony Bishop's arrest was everywhere. Matt's face, grainy from a mugshot, filled the screen. I felt a flicker of something. Was it satisfaction or grief? Claire was already awake, scrolling through news feeds, eyes red and swollen. We did it, she said softly, but there was no triumph in her voice. They're arresting everyone. They're saying Matt cooperated. Turned on Tony for a deal. That stung more than I expected. Matt, always surviving by betraying someone else. My head spun with memories. Our wedding, the birth of our daughter, his smile when he came home late. Had any of it ever been real? Detectives arrived by noon. We'll relocate you soon, one promised. But it'll be months before things calm down. You and your daughter are still targets, even if Bishop is behind bars. I packed bags in a daze, trying to decide what to keep from my old life. My daughter toddled in, asking when Daddy would come home. I knelt and hugged her, words catching in my throat. After the sun set, I found myself standing on the back porch, Claire beside me, breathing in the sharp air. We'd lost everything: husbands, homes, safety, and even our names. But we were alive, and we had each other. I'm sorry for hating you, I whispered, surprising myself. Claire gave a tired, teary laugh. Me too. But maybe this is how we start again. No more secrets. Just the truth. A police car crawled by, headlights sweeping over us. Somewhere, deep inside, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Tomorrow, we would disappear. But tonight, for the first time, I let myself hope that starting over was possible, even after being nearly destroyed by the truth. Moving day felt surreal. Police cars flanked our battered sedan as I loaded the last bag. Just essentials, keepsakes, and a handful of photos that hadn't been tainted by Matt's double life. Claire helped with my daughter, gentle and patient, like we'd always been sisters instead of rivals. Before we left, I stood in the empty living room and let myself feel everything. The love, the lies, the ache of betrayal, the wild relief of escape. This house had been the stage for all my happiest memories, and now every shadow was a reminder of what I'd lost. The relocation officer explained everything in clipped, professional tones. New IDs, a safe house for as long as it took to testify, therapy resources, a burner phone in case we needed to reach anyone from our old life. My daughter was too young to notice the nervous tension, but she clung to her stuffed rabbit, big eyes watching me for cues. I forced a smile and promised we were going somewhere better. The drive out of the city was silent. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror. expecting Tony's men or some last shadow of Matt's world to come crashing after us. But the only thing following was the sunset. Our safe house was a bland, anonymous apartment 2 hours away, blank walls, secondhand furniture, clean beds. Claire and I unpacked in silence. Later, over microwave dinners, we finally spoke. "Do you think he'll try to find us?" Claire asked, voice low. I shook my head. Matt's not the man I thought he was. If he cared, he'd have stopped all this before it started. This is our chance, not his. She nodded, letting that settle. We sat together in the quiet, two women who'd survived the storm, bound by pain and something like trust. For the first time in forever, I felt the faintest spark of freedom. But I knew the trial, the world, and the headlines weren't finished with us yet. Time blurred in the safe house. Days marked by check-ins from officers, anonymous phone calls, and whispered conversations with lawyers. Claire and I rehearsed our testimonies, reliving every painful detail for people who only saw us as evidence. The trial became a media circus. Reporters camped outside the courthouse, their headlines blaring betrayal, scandal, and corruption. Our names, new and old, were on every tongue. I watched Matt take the stand from a hidden room, his expression hollow, his words carefully measured. He confessed just enough to save himself, shifting blame onto Tony Bishop and his cronies. His eyes never once searched for me. Claire and I testified, voices trembling but clear. We laid bare the secrets Matt fought so hard to keep. The second phone, the money, the threats. The prosecutor built his case on our pain, the jury's faces growing harder with each revelation. When it was Claire's turn, she didn't flinch. "He made me believe I was special," she told the courtroom. But it was all a lie, and I was just one of many. I told my story, thinking of my daughter and all the women watching from home who might finally recognize their own warning signs. Days stretched into weeks. At last, the verdicts came. Guilty on every count for Bishop, jail time for Matt, several officials fired or arrested. The judge commended our courage, but it felt hollow. Nothing could restore what was lost. Afterward, the press begged for interviews. I turned them down. Claire and I held hands on the courthouse steps, unnoticed for once, just two survivors ready to disappear again. "Do you regret it?" Claire whispered. I shook my head. The truth nearly destroyed me, but it saved us, too. As the cameras flashed and the city buzzed with gossip, I finally felt the weight of Matt's secrets slip away. For the first time, the future was wide open. After the trial, the world spun on, but I felt strangely still, like the last storm had finally passed. Our old lives were gone, scorched by the truth, but I no longer wanted them back. Claire and I received new identities, addresses we would never speak aloud, and a future that belonged only to us and my daughter. We moved to a quiet town where no one recognized our faces or whispered our names. The air was cleaner, the night silent. I took a job at a little bookstore, spending my days stacking shelves, breathing in the simple peace of anonymity. My daughter made friends at her new school, slowly shedding the fear that used to shadow her eyes. Claire stayed close, a constant in my life. We laughed sometimes, real, free laughter, over coffee in our tiny kitchen. There were nightmares, sure, and moments when I jumped at footsteps behind me, but they came less and less. The past had left scars, but we were healing. One evening, as the sun set over our quiet street, Claire turned to me. "Do you miss him?" I thought of Matt. Not the man I'd loved, but the man he became, the secrets he carried. I shook my head. I miss the person I thought he was, but I'm grateful for the person I get to be now. We stood on the porch, my daughter's laughter ringing through the air, and I felt something almost like hope. I had survived the worst betrayal, faced the darkest truth, and found the courage to start over. For the first time, I believed I deserved happiness, not in spite of what I'd lost, but because of what I'd learned. And as the sky turned gold and the world quieted, I whispered a promise to myself. This new life is mine. I will never live in the shadows of someone else's lies again.